Hello colleagues, this is Michael from the Board Games Chronicle. Today I have for you a very special game for me about which I'm pretty excited. This will be 1920 Nest of Eagles game by Jarosław Flis from Phalanx Games. This is the, let's say, second edition of this game. I would say completely revamped edition of this game. The first 1920 was published in 1995, so almost 30 years ago. Now, with the help of Phalanx, the rulebook and also the components were completely revamped and updated. And now we will have, I would say, maybe not new game, but a highly enhanced title. Couple of words about what's this game about. The year tells a lot. 1920 in Polish history is one of the most important years. I would like to remind you that the Red Bolshevik faction won the civil war with the White faction in Russia, and they were bringing the peace and joy to the, let's say, working classes of the Germany, France, and Western Europe. There was one problem, though, a newly created, after 123 years, country of Poland, which stood in, let's say, path of the Bolshevik army, of the hordes from the east, which were about to swarm the Europe. 1920 was a decisive, let's say, year during the Polish-Soviet War. The whole war was from 1919 till 1921, and it ended with a Polish victory. However, 1920 was the most decisive part, as I said. So this game will take us through this fateful year in a series of scenarios. Of course, you will be also able to play the whole campaign, but also a series of smaller scenarios where you will be learning the rules and also playing on the smaller maps. One disclaimer, one very important disclaimer. What I'm showing to you today is almost final version. Some of the components will be still enhanced and there will be some small changes, although what you see here is, I would say, 95%, 98% final. So let's start. This will be first look at scenarios, so you will not only see the components, hear about the historical background, but also a bit about the rules. We have deep 3 inches box, nice. In the final version, you will also have the graphics at the back, of course. And let's see what we have as a content. This is a hex and counter game, although a lot of solutions are pretty, let's say, innovative. We have 2 die. First thing which we have is the rulebook, Nest of Eagles. You have like 36 pages, and not all pages are of rules. There are, let's say, example of plays. There are some clarifications. There are historical notes. However, it's not a game which I would say which is entry type of a game. It's medium complexity, medium heavy. So it's good to have already some background here before playing it. Although I think the entry wargamers should also be able. We'll have, of course, both sides in this war, Polish and Bolshevik. We'll have Ukrainian side fighting on both sides with split loyalties. We have a lot of infantry, some tanks, a little airplanes, a lot of armored cars and armored trains. Here we have the rulebook. The whole map will be divided into 3 theaters: Polish, Ukrainian, and Lithuanian and Belarusian. We will have following counters. These are actually markers to mark some things. These are not the unit counters. The unit counters will look like this. And there will be pretty interesting rule about lines of friction. There will be no zones of control, but lines of friction through which you can move, but you will pay a lot of movement points. The red will be, of course, the Bolshevik ones, the white, the Polish ones. There will be some Lithuanian ones too. So the rulebook nicely guides you through all the types of the units first. Armored trains, armored cars, artillery, tanks, and one unit on the Polish side, also aircraft. Not sure if you know, but a lot of volunteers, for example, from US, were fighting on the Polish side during this war for us to save the independence. Yeah, let's say so. Lines of friction is one of the most important rules of the game. I will be showing you how to play materials, so we'll not spend too much time today. It's enough to say that crossing this is costly. Yeah. And yeah, this shows the encirclement by the unit because yeah, all the lines of friction actually close this unit without possibility to exit. And here we see that the lines of friction are broken here by the adjacent unit. Pretty easy rule. When you have stacking, movement, there is a reaction movement. I like it because you don't have a classical I go, you go. There will be reactions during the turn of your opponent. By the way, a lot of mechanics which you see here were already developed 30 years ago, so I would say it was pretty advanced game by this time. Rail transport, which can move your units in a hidden way on the map, really cool. Attack, will be long section on this. How to retreat, classical things. How to advance, and moral advantages. Moral advantages being gained on the particular front, so it's not one for the whole map. It's more like on the particular part of the map. So Ukrainian theater, Polish theater, Lithuanian, Belarusian theater. Yeah, then we have supply, of course. Replacement and reinforcements, very important. Both sides have a lot. Unit reorganization, Polish special units. Yeah, both sides will have some special units, like voluntary corps on Polish side, voluntary brigades. We'll have also Lithuanian Belarusian divisions. We'll have defenders of Lviv. We'll have motorized infantry, Cossack brigades. All these units, yeah, will be there. Polish, allied, Ukrainian units. So this is the Ukrainians which were fighting on the Polish side. But you will have also some interesting Russian units like Konarmia, so the cavalry army of the Bolsheviks, and Soviet reserve divisions too. Okay. Interestingly, there will be also Polish revolutionary division. So the Poles, traitors, let's be honest, traitors, who moved to Bolsheviks and were actually supporting them, and they were supposed to be a government when Bolsheviks conquered Poland. You know, in 1920 and in 1944, the Russian army was entering Poland, of course, in 1920 as an aggressor, in 1944 as a so-called liberator, but it was changing one, allegiance to one, let's say, oppression from German to Soviet. And both times they were bringing the government, of course, with them, which was supposed to be installed in 1920, but which was installed in 1940. So there's also political dimension. There are also Soviet allied Ukrainian brigades, which were fighting brother against brother on Polish and Ukrainian and Russian sides. Optional rules, free player game because you can play free play, and also Lithuania. There was a friction between Polish and Lithuanian forces. Yeah, these are the optional rules, and we will be at the end of this, let's say, yeah, rule book. Then we have scenario book. Scenario book, actually to play the scenarios you have scenario book, which tells you about very dry information for what you are getting, victory points, what are the objectives, what is the length of the game, and so on and so forth. And you have also, let's say, mats or cardboard, paper instructions, which will show you player rates, which will show you exactly the designation of the unit. So here you have all the information about, I believe, 8 or 9 scenarios. Yeah, There are 9 scenarios. You have example of play, very useful thing. I told you, hex and counter game. An example of play really nicely shows how to play it. And history. It's good to read a bit about the history. Not overly long, as you can see, like 3.5 pages of this war, of a relationship between Bolsheviks and Polish state, about, really existential threat to Polish independence with the Bolsheviks advocates of the war. So yeah, fueled by the hatred and by the ideology. Not so different as from today and what Russia does towards Ukraine. Okay, scenarios. Let me bring this to you. Okay, so as for the scenarios, we would have them very nicely shown. So this is how the scenarios will be shown. You will have a theater. This is a small scenario one, Smolensk Gate. It only happens, I believe, in Lithuanian and Belarusian theater. And here we have the setup of the Soviets. Here we have setup of the Polish forces, and also when the reinforcements are coming and how long the game takes. The longer scenarios, or let's say the bigger scenarios, which are, for example, spanning like couple of theaters, like scenario 3, Spring 1920, has a setup in Ukrainian theater and in Lithuanian and Belarusian theater. In the final version of the game, you will have it on the back side of the one, let's say, playwright. In my kind of prototype version, or almost final prototype, it's on the 2 cards, but in the end it will be on the one. As I told you, there are like 9 scenarios, Battle of Warsaw being one of the bigger ones. Yeah, this is Battle of Warsaw, scenario 6, both theaters. And Miracle on the Vistula, because yeah, the fact that Polish forces managed to prevent the conquering of Warsaw. Here is Warsaw, and Józef Piłsudski managed to do the counter-attack here from the southern part. Was first mocked by some people as a miracle, but now in today's culture in Poland, it's really called like this, Miracle at the Vistula, without any negative, let's say, connotations. So this will be the scenario setup maps. I like them. Yeah, they will allow you to very quickly set up this game without losing any time. Now we have a counters. They are two-sided, as you can see. Yeah, with a stronger part and the weekend. You can see all of those tanks, artillery, motorized brigades. Here are the trains. Here are the Lithuanian part. Yeah. The colors also mark the fronts for the Soviets, and in Polish situation, these bands actually mark some special units with some special, say, actions. These are more regular ones, and these are more special ones. So there are not too many counters, let's be honest. Yeah, it's not a very counter-intense game. Then you have some additional markers, auxiliary markers, like for the reinforcements, for marking the control, and other stuff like this. In the final version, of course, this third mat will be cut here. It's only, from the prototype. You have a front marked here nicely. But what I would like to show you now are the beautiful, beautiful maps in this game. And let me just make space for this. I'm not sure if you can see the whole map. Most probably not with the one look. As I told you, this is an almost final prototype. This map will look at the back a little different, but from this side it should look like this. Okay, let me go to the other side of camera. So yeah, The map is not overly large. It shows here the Polish theater, the Ukrainian theater, and Lithuanian and Belarusian theater. You have the main towns, cities like Warsaw. You have Kiev here, Warsaw here, Kiev here. You have Smolensk here, up to the, of course, Moscow. Then the map key nicely explains all the terrain here. You would have holding spaces for the counters and also the calendar. Here you have the Russian part and of course the general moral track. So this is how it will look like. I really like how it's done. It's really nicely, you know, written. You have some mountains. You have Pripyat marshes. You have big forests. Yeah, you have also some of the forts here. Modlin, Grodno, Dęblin, Równe. So yeah, Przemyśl, Przemyśl. You have them here. Yeah, looks very nice, even for a advanced prototype. I should probably call it advanced prototype as an almost final version of this game. Okay, guys, that would be all for today. I wanted just to give you a quick overview. First look at 1920, Nest of Eagles, the game from Phalanx Games by Jarosław Lis, which describes the Polish-Soviet War of 1919-1921 with a special focus on 1920 and most important battles which were happening then and how the fate, let's be honest, of the whole Europe was saved then. That's all for today. If you like this video, kindly please give thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content like this, do not hesitate to subscribe. Also, I would like to thank you for being with me today. There will be more videos about this game, and I believe it's already available on the Phalanx side at really decent price from what I remember. So please go check out. Thank you for today, and thank you for being with me.